After my last video, I got some questions about how I like to heat seal things, what tools I use to get it done. The best summary I can give is don't overthink it. This is actually a lot simpler than you might realize. At its core, all you need is some sort of a hot squeezy thing and some sort of a plastic bag of my thing. I have certain preferences in how I like to do it because I find that those tools were the best in terms of the amount of effort and money that I was willing to put in for something that I do maybe a couple times a year. The first thing we need is the hot squeezy thing. Something that'll have compression that it gives, and it needs to heat up to around, I think, 350 to 450. I like to use the industrial tool for the purpose called an impulse sealer. It's got a little nichrome strip on the bottom here and a silicone rubber bit on the clamp. When you close the impulse sealer, it will run the heating element for a set period of time, and that's typically long enough to seal the bag. You have on the end a little dial that allows you to set it to whatever temperature you think is appropriate. I usually leave it at the max. The only feature that I wouldn't have minded is a little sliding trimmer on it. You could close, then run a little slider across, and it would trim the excess bag and heat seal it in one action. I do this so rarely that not getting that feature was fine by me. Scissors are cheap and I already had some. The one that I have is 8 inches and it cost me about 20 bucks at the time, but virtually identical items are available for about 20 bucks still. You just have to look around. This is an off-brand. Don't worry about the brand. There's nothing magical about this. It's just nichrome wire and some basic mechanisms. If you just want to try this out with something that you might have on hand already, the flat iron will heat seal bags as well. It might take a little bit longer, but it's a perfectly reasonable option. If you have an at-home vacuum sealer, it has the same functionality in it. Don't use the vacuum portion of it, just use the heat sealing portion of it. I will say that I don't really use more than about 4 to 6 inches. If you saw something that was in the 4 to 6 inch range, then you'd probably be okay with that. I haven't seen an impulse sealer smaller than 8 inches, and that's why I have what I have. The next thing you need is some sort of bagging material, and I have a few things that I've used on that front. Your options for bagging include purpose-made bags, reusing Ziploc bags, you can trim them to custom sizes, or reusing commercial packaging materials. All of these are effectively heat sealed anyway. If it would be easier for you to get some of these just to play around with, try it. It'll probably work. One thing that I don't have on the table that I've used before and works very well, especially if you have one of the heat sealers with a sliding cutter on it, is poly tubing. But for backpacking, I chose to go with a Mylar material because Mylar is essentially smell-proof. It's not 100%, it's very close to smell-proof. If you're trying to reduce the funk you would get in a bear can, this is a great way to go. You can also get these bags with little tear notches already built in. That makes your life a lot easier. Otherwise, you would need to wrestle with Mylar, which does not easily tear, or cut little notches yourself, which is kind of a pain in the... I started out using other bags that were either larger or came in specific shapes. The bags that I like the most are these. They have clear plastic on one side. The fact that it's on one side isn't really important to me. I just like that at least one side is clear so I can see the contents. The dimensions are about 8 centimeters across the top by 12 centimeters down the side. That translates to 3.1 inches wide and 4.7 inches tall. This ends up being a good size for beverages, which are the primary use of these things. I do also have these larger bags for other items. I only found them in foil on both sides and I didn't really care that much. I'm gonna label everything anyway, so that's what I use. If you're going to get 2 sizes, I suggest getting something big because you can always trim it down to whatever size you need. You just can't cut it larger. Most of the cheap sellers of these aren't gonna tell you how thick the plastic is. It really doesn't matter that much. The ones I like the most are 3.5 thou thick, which translates to around 0.9 millimeters. And the ones that I found were a little too thick, but still usable, were more like 4 thou or 0.1 millimeters thick. It's not super sensitive, and even these ones that don't work as well still work. I just have to run them twice in a row so the plastic gets heated through. Let's take a look at how this works. The tools you should have on hand to heat seal things quickly are these. You'll want a bowl to measure things into, a scale to measure things with, some sort of funnel to get things into the bag, some sort of bagging material, and some sort of sealing device. And it goes a little something like this. I like to use decimal ounces because it translates directly into calories. 1 ounce is 100 calories, 0.7 ounces is 70 calories. I can label things in terms of calories or ounces and it's the same. So you want to turn your scale on, then you want to measure out the amount of drink mix or whatever it is that you are planning to use. I measured out 0.7 ounces and now I need to put it in the bag. Funnel helps a lot here. There you go. it's in the bag. Quick tip here, before you try to heat seal, you want to wipe away any powder that might be around the top. If there are crystals that get in the way of the heat sealing, sometimes it can prevent a thorough seal. You don't want sugar powder floating around in your bear can. If it gets wet, you're gonna turn everything sticky and it's gonna be gross. When I'm heat sealing things, I like to leave a moderate amount of air in the bag. That way I still have the ability to shift the powder around, but your mileage may vary. You do what makes sense for your packing situation. If you're trying to fit a whole bunch of them in a fanny pack or something, it might be easier to squeeze out the air. We're gonna heat seal it once. And then I like to move it slightly to the side and heat seal it again, just as a backup to make sure that I don't end up with any powder floating around in my bear can. Since it's a little hard to guess what's in these bags, I come up with some sort of terminology. Usually I use the number of calories, which at the same time is the number of ounces. So in this I put 0.7 ounces, that is 70 calories. And this is watermelon Gatorade Endurance, so I put WE and we're good to go. The last thing I'll do is trim off any excess plastic and trim off the corners. I do this because sometimes I have these things in a running pack and the corners can kind of poke through the thin materials. And any plastic I don't take into the wilderness is going to be plastic I don't need to carry out. And there you have it. We're good to go. Since I primarily use this for drink mix, I thought I might show you the advantage of these foil packets over polytubing or Ziploc bags. The real magic is when you tear open these Mylar bags, you get a fairly clean edge, and that means it's easy to pour into your water bottle. If you leave a little extra space at the top of your water bottle, not only will you not overflow your water bottle, but it helps the water slosh around so you can mix up your Gatorade without having a crust of it form on the bottom of the bottle. Just to underscore my point about how universal this is, I thought I'd show you some other materials that you can also heat seal if it happened to be convenient for your packing situation. Bag of pretzels, they come from the store heat sealed. Let's see if they work. Works a treat. Let's say you already bought some drink mix packets and you wanted to make them smaller. You get all the powder down in one end. And there we go, smaller package. Let's say we needed small Ziploc bags and we didn't want to order 50,000 of them on Amazon. Poly melts at a lower temperature, so you don't need to crank it all the way up. But there you go, smaller bag. Let's trim that off and then see if we can make a Ziploc bag that's narrower. There we go, a small custom Ziploc bag. Now let's pretend that you aren't even willing to do anything other than just go to the grocery store and buy things you were going to buy anyways. Grocery bag from the local market. There we go. Custom bag. Put whatever you need in it. Now she's sealed. Hopefully that's demystified the process. There's nothing fancy about this. It's really straightforward. If you've got some sort of heating squeezy thing and then some sort of plastic baggy thing, you're probably gonna be fine. Again, I like an 8-inch commercial impulse sealer. It cost me all of 20 bucks and it works great. If you're using something other than an impulse sealer and you have problems with the plastic sticking, I think these guys have a little Teflon strip on them that might help a little bit. Anyway, hopefully that clears up any confusion. I have my preferences, but a lot of tools will work in this setup. So if you already have something, try it now, and if you like it, then buy specific tools for it. My scale, heat sealer, and 100 plastic bags probably cost me 40 bucks total. So this isn't expensive, and if you do this stuff a lot, it's really convenient. So get out there, enjoy the mountains. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Comment if you have any questions still. I'll be happy to answer them, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.